Alright you guys, and welcome back to a brand new sculpting video. And with the trailer for a new Cuphead game being released recently, and me having made some Cuphead videos in the past, I thought, hey, why not make something Cuphead? Now, to switch things up a little and also having made some other realistic characters on the channel, one thing led to another and I landed on making a realistic Mugman for this week's video. Now you might ask, why him and not his brother? Well, frankly, despite the name of the franchise telling you otherwise, I always felt like Mugman gave me more main character energy. Plus, I'd much rather sculpt a mug than a cup, obviously. Anyways, with a sloppy intro done, we can get started with the sculpting, where I'm currently trying my damnedest to make a somewhat symmetrical mug, blending in layers upon layers in the hopes of it not ending up looking like total crap. And with pottery skills that leave much to be desired, I'll try my luck at carving by engraving his most dominant and well, also only facial features into the mug. Once I gave him a generous smile, I'll grab some pre-colored clay, which I'ma use to cover the inside of his mouth, laying the foundation for tongue and teeth. Speaking of which, after blending in some gums, I can add his bottom row of teeth, as well as 2 teeth sprouting from his upper jaw, since a mug with a full set of teeth would look ridiculous. And to make his mouth look not quite so flat, I added a thin worm of clay working as his lips. Now, I considered adding a jawline and thereby turning him into Mugman, but we'll save that idea for a future video. And since realistic often goes hand in hand with a bit creepy, I gave Mugman some eye bags topped off with an eyeball each. Speaking of balls and playing with them, nobody said that, I added a bigger and bluer ball to the middle of his face, working as his nose. Next up is the filling of his top. Now, the in-game brothers both seem to be featuring a straw coming out of their head. However, you can't tell me that there is any living organism working on nothing but a straw and some milk. So naturally, after rolling one of the longest and fleshiest wieners on my desk so far, I can, after cutting it into pieces, build up my humanoid brain. Once looking smart enough, I can elevate the brain by placing his intestine directly under it. So in case you'll ever find yourself having to perform a colonoscopy on Mugman, you know where to look at. Anyways, the last piece missing is a handle, and I proved to be handling such handle-less situations quite well, since I just made myself one out of clay. Which now brings us on to making the mug body. Said body starts out as they all do by rolling some aluminium foil into a testicular ball, which I can then cover with an initial layer of thick skin, followed by bulking up his lower section for his soon-to-be blue panties. I then gave him 2 AA-sized manly boobs, surprisingly enjoying the procedure of pressing them down. With that, my mug torso, or morso, is done, and ready for the introduction of 2 flimsy legs, where I'll only be adding hints of muscle, such as calves and quads. Those sticky limbs can then get covered and blended in with a super short trouser leg each. And I sincerely apologize for the lack of ball rolling in this video, and start catching up by forming 2 equally sized balls for his shoes. There's not much going on when it comes to making those realistic, other than just adding a bit more details such as shoelaces and, well, that's the only detail. By repeating the same process for the second shoe, I got myself a lovely pair and can set those aside for later assembly. Then it's on to making what seems like a second set of legs, and oh, never mind, I added an elbow. That's gotta be the arms. So as shoes they will be getting 2 hand shoes, aka gloves. And I'll make a thumb using nothing but a thumb. I know, it's magical, right? Once that's blended to the finger-lacking hand, I can sell the impression of it being a glove by adding a cuff to each. After connecting glove to arm and arm to body, I'm left with a complete set of Mugman's body. However, there is no shot those fragile legs can handle the weight and size of my head. So to help my man stand up straight, I made a base where I blended in some old leftover clay for additional weight. And that's my realistic mug ready for baking. And once cooled and hard, it's time for painting the mug boy. I'll start out by drowning the already colored parts in a wash of the same color, plus some additional highlights using lighter and maybe even higher colors. Well, what the fuck, I don't know where I'm going with this. Anyways, then it's on to laying a white base coat on the mug. While the coat is drying, I can apply a nose wash, which, if I'm being honest, I forgot to add earlier. And then get back to painting the mug, which is proving to be sponge worthy. I'll then, in a shocking turn of events, paint his eyes white. They will be white. Followed by adding a fleshy transition, blending the eyes and mouth to the mug. Making it look real nasty, and speaking of nasty, I'll apply a brownish wash to the head as well as teeth, making them look gross. Which I guess makes sense since I've never spotted a mug brushing its teeth. Now, painting the pupils usually gets me a bit nervous. This time, however, I suffered like 3 nervous breakdowns, painting those stupid black beans missing a piece. Anyways, then we're on to painting the body holding the mug head up high, where I'll start out with a white base coat similar to the head. With gloves and legs widened, I'll break out some blue paint for his pants. And although typically only being produced to keep your upper body warm, I still gave my shoes a brown coat. Alright, at this point, just shut up. Now I'm clearly running out of good jokes here, but the question is, can you run out of something you never had in the first place? I don't know, neither do I care, this ain't no philosophy channel. Alright, we should focus on painting here. I then covered each of the initial coats in a separate wash. And then it's on to basing the base using basic base colors. Coloring of the base doesn't matter too much since it will be receiving a grassy top coat anyways. The only thing left to paint at this point is his shirt, which I'll paint black using some matte black paint. With the painting done, we're on to some final touches, such as some UV resin to make the eyes nice and shiny. Then I'll be mixing a cocktail, or should I say a brain tail, since it will be poured into his head, not his pants. And in order to stay somewhat character accurate, I figured I'ma add some milk to the brain. You shouldn't think about it too much. Especially when considering that for some reason I end up giving him a glass of milk. Not a mug though, since that would be cannibalistic. Anyways, after the minor hiccup of his thumb breaking off, I filled it with some milk. I'll then be moving to the base one final time, and since I'm a man of my word, I'ma add some grass. Followed by gluing on the head in the goofiest angle I could find, and that's my realistic Mugman done. thank you guys for watching. Let me know down below which innocent character I should make a realistic version of next. Leave a like if you're in the mood for a glass of milk now. I mean, why wouldn't you? Please consider subscribing, and for that much appreciated extra support you can always check out my Patreon. That's enough yapping for today. I'll be back pleasuring you with another video next week, I guess. And I love y'all. Bye.